folks. I'm Cynthia Dice, and I'm with Triangle Artworks. I want to welcome you to our marketing panel. We're going to be starting here in just 1 minute. Our panelists are all coming in, and our participants are coming in. If you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to share them in the chat. And we look forward to having a great talk here today. So I just want to get a nod from all the panelists. You guys can all see, hear, everything's working technologically. Love it. Okay, wonderful. So, well, first of all, again, my name is Cynthia Dice and I'm with Triangle Artworks. I wanted to welcome you to our panel today. We're discussing marketing now and how artists' marketing needs to change in our time. Our panelists that we have joining us today it'll be moderated by Susan Flower. Susan is a really tremendously talented writer, and she works now in influencer marketing and with Carusele, and she will maybe say a few words about that if she wants to. And then our three panelists that we have joining us today are Alexis Jenssen. She's with the Bowerbird Agency, and she does a lot of work with places and spaces and events and organizations that you know from around the Triangle. Definitely check out her work. Christopher Everett, or Chris, Chris is a documentary filmmaker. He's the maker of Wilmington on Fire. It was an amazing documentary. If you've not seen Wilmington on Fire, it will transform your feelings about North Carolina history. It's certainly something I highly recommend. And he's also works with the Full Frame Documentary Festival. Chris has experience as an artist marketing his own work and in marketing the work of Full Frame. And then our last panelist today is David Baldwin. He's principal with Baldwin and it's a really amazing marketing agency. Definitely go check out their website. There's so much video content on there. I've been on your website probably more than I should have been, really, because it's really good. Anyway, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. I'm going to be off screen now and turn it over to Susan. And I appreciate you joining us for the panel, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. So today, as Cynthia said, we're going to be discussing the current state of marketing and the challenges that artists are facing. Alexis, let's start with you. As someone who has experience working with smaller art businesses and nonprofits, you would speak. Sorry, I just lost.
Yeah.
If you would speak to that.
Yeah, you know, what I find most that my clients are dealing with currently, especially when it comes to art and handmade goods and wares, is that personal connection that exists. That's a huge missing for art procurement. A lot of art is procured through shows, gallery showings, really that personal connection people make with the artist that ties them the heartstrings to the product that they're going to purchase. That's, I think, number one, what people are struggling with. And then number two is just understanding how to present themselves outside of that. That's what all artists, I'm a trained fine artist, that's what I learned, is how to, you know, do the gallery scene, do all of that, make those connections with people. So how do you create your story beyond the gallery? How do you grow yourself online to make those connections in a different way?
Right, and I mean, social media is great, but it's just one tool, and it is missing that layer of connection. So any suggestions for artists?
You know, I think right now the social media is a great tool for reaching out to people. I also think retail is a really great tool to tap into locally. I really am urging my clients to sort of saturate their immediate local market retail outlets, because retail is struggling right now, a lot of locally owned retail, because a lot of their suppliers were previously offering net terms for purchases. So that sort of allowed them to have this limbo for purchasing and then paying later that they don't have the opportunity to take advantage of now. So it's a really great time actually for local artisans to get their work into some retail establishments. And I think it's an opportunity worth taking advantage of.
And how are these retailers working with the artists to sort of bridge that gap with the clients and the potential buyers?
Yeah, so I know actually I will just use downtown Apex as sort of our hub. And recently, a lot of the retailers have been integrating a lot more local work. They're feeling the strain and needing to support income retention in our community. And so they're really wanting to support local craftspeople. And B, it gives them a boost. Every time they have a local craftsperson come in, that gets a lot more attention immediately and locally, right? Across all of their social media. And so I think they're really reaching out a lot more for those than they used to. And I know a lot of the local shops are doing consignment opportunities as well. I think they're navigating it and kind of rolling with the punches a little bit more than they used to. So you might get into a larger retail establishment that you wouldn't have before, and then you get to really elevate yourself to where they have been for years leading up to COVID.
Very interesting. I think it's also part of that whole return to kind of word of mouth marketing,
Yes.
that sort of, that's great. So the retailers get that bump from the local artist, and the local artist gets the benefit of the larger.
Yes, we are really encouraging everyone like that to just saturate your local area really heavily right now.
Great. Great. So Christopher, I know that you work as an individual artist and that you financed your film with a marketing campaign before you even began production. So would you like to speak to what that would look like if you were doing that today?
Yeah. Oh, totally. I actually just finished a crowdfunding campaign. It ended a few weeks ago, actually, and it was successful. We raised 30 grand for Wilmington on Fire Chapter 2. And yeah, so, I thought that, let me go back a little bit. When COVID hit, that really affected a lot of filmmakers, especially independent filmmakers. A lot of us didn't know what to do, really couldn't film. And then also a lot of film festivals had to cancel or, switch to the virtual screening method platforms and stuff like that. But it's been also a blessing for me. I just had to learn how to adjust. And I try to tell that to filmmakers all the time, especially documentary filmmakers, that, even though we can't do in-person screenings anymore, the virtual landscape has kind of opened it up where we can do more things like what we're doing now, panel discussions, and you can reach more folks. And also you don't have to worry about bringing everybody in. Like I would have to bring in folks that were in the film to do a Q&A and pay for their travel and all that stuff. Now, people are living in different locations. Some of my crew people are in LA, New York. So now if we do a panel discussion, we all can do it on Zoom, I don't have to worry about the cost of flying everybody in and all that stuff and paying for food and all that. So what I decided to do was to partner with folks that I already had relationships with and said, you know what, let me start some type of screening series, a virtual screening series. And so a colleague of mine, Curtis John, he's in New York and I'm in North Carolina. And we decided to create a Black documentary film series called Black Docs, where we highlight Black documentary films and filmmakers. And so we decided to kick it off with my film, Wilmington on Fire, since I had an audience already and folks really wanted to see my film. And we had a lot of screenings lined up, but a lot of them got canceled because of COVID. So we pretty much had everyone that wanted to see the film to say, hey, we have this virtual screening series coming out, tune in. And so it was an amazing hit. We had like over 300 people to buy tickets for that screening. IndieWire did an article on us as well. And we actually partnered with Seed and Spark. And if people are looking to do certain virtual screening events, Vimeo has an option for that now. Also, Seed and Spark is really cool. They actually created their own platform for people that want to stream and do screening events, whether virtual festivals or virtual screening events. And so we decided to partner with Seed and Spark. And they also had access to like certain celebrity folks that, have partnered with them over the years. So we actually got Erica Alexander from Living Single, the TV show from back in the day. And she also was a producer on John Lewis's documentary, Good Trouble, as well. So she actually interviewed me, moderated, my panel.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I grew up, watching this lady, on TV, so I was
Right.
nervous,
Right.
but it was cool, and then that just brought in a whole new audience. And so then we started doing other screenings of other documentary filmmakers. And so each month we were doing screenings. And so I actually increased my email list as well. So we've already grown our email list over 1,000 new subscribers because of that. And also people are wanting to do more virtual screenings of Wilmington on Fire as well. We just did a drive-in screening last week in Wilmington, and then we did a panel discussion last night on the campus, for the campus of UNCW as well. And so recently, I wanted to do Wilmington on Fire Chapter 2, and I needed some money to raise, some funds to get stuff shot.
Mhm.
And out of the blue, a couple of celebrities really started shouting out my film. And you never know who's really watching you out here on social media. That's why I always tell filmmakers to really market your product, even if you're in that stage of filming. And so Hillary Burton Morgan from One Tree Hill, she tagged me on Instagram, and because she used to live in Wilmington, they shot One Tree Hill in Wilmington years ago.
Right. Right.
And someone told her about my film, word of mouth, gets around. And so she watched it and actually just fell in love with the film and urged everyone to watch it. And I was like, wow. And so I hit her up and said, hey, thanks for the shout out. I really appreciate it. And she wanted to talk to me. And so we talked on the phone, did a couple of Zoom chats, and I told her I'm doing part 2. And she said, hey, I want to get involved to help you produce this thing. And so we launched the crowdfunding campaign on Seed and Spark, raised $30,000 in 30 days, and we got some great coverage through Real Screen and a lot of the local press in Wilmington and throughout North Carolina as well. And so I tell filmmakers all the time, you can do it during COVID. It kind of looks like a daunting task, but you really just have to really be strategic with your partnerships, really utilize social media to your advantage. And also there are a lot of other non-traditional media outlets out there where you can promote, like podcasts. A lot of folks are starting podcasts and are looking for interesting guests to be on their podcast, and just reach out to them. You can go on Facebook and people are always promoting podcasts in different groups and stuff like that, and just, leverage those relationships and grow and build them.
So do you think that because of the pandemic and it forcing you to sort of think outside the box, I mean, I know that's a cliche term, but, doing things differently than if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, maybe you wouldn't have done those virtual screenings, things like that. But now you've actually been able to reach more people, to crowdsource your funding in 30 days, which is crazy, and things like that, all because you use those tools.
Yeah, the thing is, I think what helped me was I was already doing that. I was always thinking outside the box. Really, I kind of followed the model of the independent rock musician, where they would go on tour and make every screening just a main event. I never really did the traditional screening of, being in a theater for a week and stuff like that. We would make it an event. We started off in Wilmington because the story is about Wilmington. And so we did a couple of big events in Wilmington where we packed in about 600 to 1,000 people, just for the couple of screenings. And then we just went across the state because it's history about the state of North Carolina. So we went to Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Fayetteville, Goldsboro, and just on average, we would have 200 to 500 people a screening, and at like $15 a ticket. Plus we did it just like an indie musician would do. We have a merch table, where we have our t-shirts, the whole nine. And we had a system where we can actually get people contact info as well, their cell phone and their email. So I said, you know what, we're going to continue to do that. So we've always kind of been doing that. The virtual stuff has really been a new thing. Like we've always been doing screenings, but they were always in person. So what we did was just continue that model, but just did it in the virtual, landscape.
Right. So what I'm hearing from both of you is that looking for those ways to virtually collaborate with people,
right,
more important than ever.
Right.
And just looking for ways to increase efficiency, which actually kind of goes hand in hand with virtual. If you're strategic and you use the tools to their capacity, you can become more efficient with your time and with your spend and everything. David, is that something you're seeing as a trend? with the arts, with people, with promotion? We can't hear you. We were talking to David earlier, so we know his audio is.
He might have to put like headphones in, see if that could work.
Yeah, we were talking with him earlier, and so his stuff was working, but. So while David, oh. So while David works on that, yes. So the collaboration definitely key. Alexis, what you talked about the big retailers. How do you have any recommendations for how artists can reach out and break the ice and sort of, you know, how, I mean, it seems obvious, but it's not. It can be nerve-wracking for people to try to.
It's very stressful. It's stressful to promote yourself. It's hard. It's challenging. It's outside of, you know, as an artist, you're typically used to creating a product and setting it down and then letting that speak for you. So really you're you're stepping outside of your comfort zone pretty profoundly as an artist to sell yourself as a business and as a product. I always suggest right away is we create a line sheet and we approach the retail as they're used to being approached and kind of bridge that gap for them so that they're seeing more of a wholesale sheet and they're comfortable with that. They're used to seeing that, and you're kind of leveling up with them a little bit there. And really that's fairly simple to do for an artist. It's your image, it's your statement. You already have that content created. It's just a matter of assembling it in something that is palatable to a retail establishment. And then it's a lot of hitting the ground and going, you know,
Right.
It used to be knocking on doors, popping in. Now it's more emails. I suggest like a 3 email approach. Send out an email, introduce yourself. Another one, hey, just checking in. After that third, you kind of move on. You don't want to put too much energy into a dead end. But there are a lot of independent retailers that want to incorporate things. So I think starting there, meeting them where they're at, I think a line sheet's a great spot. And again, like I said, really saturating your local market. So contacting those locally owned independent businesses in your area, I think is a great place to start. Even if it's just getting online, Google Maps, find who's local, maybe look into your chamber or your local business association and kind of identifying your targets, and then one by one, reaching out to them.
Right. That's great advice on creating the line sheet and the wholesale sheet and sort of meeting the retailer with what they're used to seeing, meeting them where they're at.
Exactly. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
Woo! Awesome. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I was talking earlier. Yeah, the thing I wanted to say was a friend of mine wrote an article in March called "Is this a quarantine or a chrysalis?" And I thought it was a really great sort of reminder of thinking inside the box to try to get out of the box. Like if this quarantine had happened 10 years ago, it would have been a completely different story. But what we have found is that there are so many tools now for all of us to thrive in a bigger world, actually, not a smaller world, even though we're all working in our homes, or, you know, some people are in their offices. I haven't been in my office since March, but actually the world's opened up a little bit for us, and who we can hire and who we can work with. And it's, as much as anything, it's an attitude shift of realizing that, oh, wait, we don't have to get somebody to move to North Carolina from New York City or from San Francisco or Portland or wherever, you know, Boston, wherever we're trying to get people to come here. It's always a conversation to say, hey, move down here. where, yes, cost of living is better and things like that. But we've had people go, I'm not moving to North Carolina. It's not happening. And we don't really have to worry about that anymore. And at the same time, I think our client base has opened up even a little bit as well, because we used to worry about time zones and phone calls and all that. And now all of that's gone. All of those things are gone. And there's been a sort of reorientation around that for us. And I would encourage any artist. I think what I love about what Alexis is saying is, like, tactically, it's so smart to say, work your environment. And I think what Chris is saying is the complete other side of that, is break down the laws of time and space and do whatever you do. I think my message would be right in the middle of that. It's like, we now, as an artist, a creative person, the world is now your oyster. You can now go anywhere. You can tell your story in a really big way using the tools that we have that 5 years ago we didn't have. And I think a lot of us are being sort of woken up to that. Well, I'll just say me. I've been woken up to that in a way that I almost feel embarrassed that I wasn't doing it, 5 years ago. So I think as an artist, I would be looking at what my values are and how do I amplify that now out on all the tools that I have.
It is true that, yeah, it's really forced us to get creative and work differently. And as I said, work more efficiently, things like that. How do you, open to anyone, how do you encourage or suggest people cut through the noise? So where, everyone's going, we're talking about promoting themselves online, doing these things. How do they cut through the noise? There's a lot between politics and just the news, and a lot of people promoting themselves, and there's a lot of boredom content. People are just creating a lot of content. So how do you recommend people do that? Is it engagement? Is it making sure that you're engaging with your followers? Is it being in the right place? Anyone want to take it?
I would just answer it this way. I think there's never been a better time to be you, right? So whatever that thing you have, put it out there in a really big way. And what the world needs for all of us is for us to show up authentically and be ourselves. That's what the world needs. And as artists, I feel like we have something really valuable to give, even if it's completely silly and inane. It can actually contribute. And so I think I would always start where my strengths are. If you're on Instagram and you are really an Instagram warrior, use Instagram. If you're on TikTok, use TikTok. If you're on, Snap, use Snap. So I think master the tools that you have and go from there. That's what I would say. But also double down on who you are and what you do. And there's an audience for that. That would be my advice.
Alexis?
Just to piggyback, I 100% agree. And I will say, I really encourage people to understand your demographic and really know who your audience is. Really get in touch with, before you would have sort of a personal connection with your audience. So you really knew who they were. You knew a little bit about them. Do some research or hire someone to help you identify who your audience is, where they're spending their time, so that you can really, if you're speaking on Instagram, but your audience is over on Facebook, you're missing something there. So really, like, duplicating something or just making just a little bit of a pivot to make sure that your time is spent in the right direction, I think is really important. And it all just comes down to, who am I speaking to? What's their behaviors? Where are they spending their time? What are their interests? And then, just paralleling what you're doing with that. And like you said, in a really authentic way, your audience is going to resonate with you because something about you resonates with them. So it's going to be authentic. It's just a matter of making sure that that you understand the platform that you're speaking on.
Christopher?
Oh yeah, I totally agree with everyone. Definitely, be yourself. I know that's what's helped me gather an audience of just me telling my story and just how I connected with a lot of folks. Because I tell people all the time, when I did Wilmington on Fire, I was living in Laurinburg, North Carolina, a small rural town. So that's why I said that I was kind of doing a lot of virtual stuff, because I was out in the middle of nowhere, trying to market my product, my film and stuff like that, people's attention. But when I would really, share my story, do a lot of interviews, whether it's, on blog sites or podcasts, people really heard who I was. and really saw themselves in me and themselves, and so a lot of people would hit me up for advice. I would do little talks with folks, or people that wanted to do documentary film, that might have stayed in a small town or wherever they're at and just never thought about doing it. And so just having that personal connection with folks really goes a long way, and they'll definitely will support you and be on that journey with you. Because I have people, still to this day that donated to my first crowdfunding campaign back in like 2011. They still support. A guy, we did an outdoor screening last month. I met a guy, he's been there the whole time. I remember he gave me, I think, like $50 on my crowdfunding campaign going back to 2011. He said, "Hey man, I'm looking forward to all your projects. I really believe in you." And that means a lot. And so it's really just being yourself, being authentic, and really going right to your audience, your demographic, and to your audience, and following them.
I do want to say one thing, and I don't know if everyone's going to grok to this, but fear is a really big thing for me, being afraid to put myself out. And I rationally deal with fear by ignoring it, if that makes sense. And it's a really hard, especially when you're talking about creativity, it's very easy to be ridiculed. And so I just, again, this is on topic and off topic, but I do think that as creative people, we all deal with sort of a fear of the blank page and the fear of the opportunity, because it can be so overwhelming. And I just think there's almost a way to disciplinize. Is that a word? That's not a word. Put some discipline around fear of ignoring it a little bit and just hitting send on the thing that you do that you want to amplify, that you're a little nervous about. And people love that. It turns out that people love that. I started making, one of the things that I started doing during quarantine was I just started making cocktails and putting them on Instagram. And it's crazy what's happened. Like, I have no intention around it. I just I'm going to start putting out cocktails. So on Instagram, and I don't have that many followers. I have like 2,200 followers or something like that. But I'm starting to get approached by brands asking me to collaborate with them and things like that. And it's like, what? Okay. And it's just, all I did was just start putting out something I was interested in. And it just started happening. And I have no facility in it. I'm an avid home bartender. That's it, And so I can only imagine if someone's got some mastery over what they're doing and they just start putting it out there. It's crazy what happens when you leap, the net appears, just a weird little net appears. And that's something that I think is an important thing to realize, that when you leap, the net will appear.
David, I love your cocktail content.
Thank you. It's
Actually,
very
several people in my
It's inspiring.
Yes.
That's so nice of you. Thank you. But it's, I mean, my goodness, it's fun. It's really fun.
But you make a great point about being authentic, putting out the things that you like and that you're good at, or that you're passionate about. I mean, passion permeates social media. It breaks down that wall of, impersonal. You can truly tell if someone's passionate about something. And I think that's great advice for artists, is don't try to be something you're not, find your people, find your group. And, and it's the other thing is, we can't do everything well. So find that thing you can do well. Pick your channel that you're comfortable with, that you can maximize on. Do you have any recommendations for artists that want to go beyond organic posting? It's very overwhelming, like buying Facebook ads or buying targeting and all of that. I mean, even people that are in the industry have to constantly stay on top of it because it's forever changing. Do you have any advice for that person at home that just wants to give their content a little boost?
I think Chris has been the master of that. I'd love to hear what Chris says.
Yeah.
I would just say, out social media posting, email lists. Do you have an email list? I know we've gotten a lot of traction over the years, just building up our list and really, targeting, folks that support us, our audience. That's always been a big help. And just putting together cool events, like collaborate. Us as filmmakers, a lot of times we know a whole bunch of filmmakers, Another initiative I actually started last year, which we actually transformed into the virtual landscape. I started a collective film group here in the Triangle, a Black collective film group. And so what we did was we would have in-person meetings a lot of times, like last year, but it was just hard to get everybody together, you know? And so we decided to do it virtually when COVID happened, and we would have 30 to 40 people at each session. And then we would do like little master classes, because I know a lot of folks in the industry and other people that I collab with as well. And so we would get someone from LA, New York, people that work in the industry in different, you know, mediums, whether it's film composition, directing, cinematography, editing, graphics, whatever, and to do these master classes. So just using, I would say, just putting together some events, virtual events with people that you know and that you already collaborate with. You can do something real cool. Like I said, Seed and Spark is a great platform. It's cheap, you know, and they're very supportive as well. Also, and then it also helps you build some audience where if you want to do a crowdfunding campaign, you can still be with Seed and Spark because they'll push that also. So I would say just start collaborating with folks that you know. Like if you're a filmmaker, you know 3 or 4 other filmmakers, you got films and you can't really do any screenings, you guys say, hey, let's go ahead and put together like a small mini festival online, you know, and it can be something like that where you all can promote it and push it out there and you have your own Q&As and everything. You know, we're doing, like I said, we're doing that right now with the Black Docs virtual screening series.
Very good. Something you said reminded me of, we advise influencers all the time not to build their business based on platforms they don't own. So if you're going to invest time and money into building your followers on Facebook and Instagram, that could be taken away from you in a second. Right. You have no control. So you're better off, I mean, do those things, but also build your email list, right. Build your blog following. Blogs are back.
Right.
Blogs are back because you own it. Nobody can take that away from you. You know, things like that. And are you seeing people do that, or would you, I mean, artists?
The thing is, a lot of artists that filmmakers per se, a lot of them don't do that. And it shocks me. Like we do it, but we also do another thing that I use another tool. It's called the Superphone. Ryan Leslie, he's a music producer. He actually created this, I would say about 6 years ago, because he became an independent artist because he was tired of what the record labels were doing. He would put out an album and it would sell like 500,000 copies. And then his next album would come out, it won't sell number 30,000. So he's like, hold on. Why didn't y'all just target that 500,000 that bought my stuff? That, well, we don't have their info. So he said, man, forget this. I'm going to go ahead and just build some type of system where I can put out my phone number and I can collect their information. So I was in the beta stage about 5 years ago, and I still have it. It's called the Superphone. People can look that up. I don't know what the price, still locked into the beta price, but it's cool because I also found it hard when I did live events to get everybody to write down their email, you know, to sign up. First, sometimes you can't read everybody's handwriting, so that's difficult. Right. And then just sometimes people just don't want to bother with it. So I said, you know what? Let me use this Superphone tool that Ryan Leslie gave me access to. And so I would give out my phone number, and I'll give out the number now if people want to see. But, you know, I would give out my phone number, and I would say, hey, thanks everyone tonight. Say we had like 300 people that attended the screening. I'll say, thanks everyone for attending the screening tonight, to come to my screening. We actually had a free promotional soundtrack for Wilmington on Fire. So I say, for everyone that came out tonight, text this number and I'll send you guys a free download of the promotional soundtrack. So everybody's texting, you know, and so I'll give out the number. When you do that, it asks for you to sign up, you know, put your name, your email, your Twitter, and all that in there, and you'll get a copy of the soundtrack. And when they do that, it automatically sends them a copy. I have their information. Also, it keeps a track of how much money they spent with me too. So I can go in there and see who really are supporting me. And it has their birthday in there. So when someone's birthday comes up, I can send them a shout out or send them something cool. You know what I'm saying? If I have a special or something going on, I'll send it to them. And so those are some of the ways we've done it, you know, over the years, you know, along with the email. You know, email is still number one with me, but this new cell phone texting technology is real interesting as well. And I think we should explore that also.
Mm-hmm. I see, I know like Post Malone uses it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was, like I said, I was in the early, because I was a fan of Ryan Leslie, and I would follow him anyway, and I used to see him talk let me try this out. So
Yeah, it's cool. It's a great, and actually I saw recently that Reese Witherspoon has her phone number in her Instagram bio.
yeah,
I
and
believe that same, yeah.
I'll go ahead and post mine as well.
It's interesting. It's definitely a different, I mean, everyone's on mobile and, you know, more eyes on mobile than anywhere else. What a better way to get in front of people, having them opt into something and then, you know, you have their captive attention.
And it's cool because, you know, when we would do in-person screenings, you know, it breaks down everything. It breaks down city, state, and everything. So if I would come back to Durham, you know, I can just target my Durham folks, you know, not only with the email, but I could also send them a text strictly to people in Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Cary, and hit them, you know, with it. And especially if they've already been to my screening, a lot of times I will send them a free ticket or a discounted ticket if they, you know, bought a DVD or supported me in some way. So it really kind of gives you an advantage to kind of incentivize, you know, your audience as well.
Very good tip. David, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and everybody probably knows this, but I just think the cold sort of cup of coffee is that organic reach is dead, right? You've got to pay. The tools on the platforms actually make it incredibly easy and non-intimidating. It's not intimidating to buy and boost posts and things like that. It's actually super easy. And if you get any one of the tools where you can actually schedule your content, there's a lot of them out there they make it really easey. And you can create a lot of engagement just by doing that. And so there's a whole suite of, you know, Hootsuite is one. There's just a bunch of them that you can use that we use them internally. And I would encourage any artist, creative person to really start to explore that and just beta it, just test and learn. Like put a post out, boost it, and see what happens. You know, you'll be shocked at what happens. Like if people engage with it. But the sort of other side, side of that is really that organic reach is gone, like it's dead. It doesn't serve the profit motives of the social media companies. So unless your content is so crazy, off the charts, weird, unique, something, I feel like a lot of viral stuff now are kind of accidental, you know? But that does not mean that you can't engineer it.
Mm-hmm. Alexis?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of, I agree when Chris was saying events and things, you know, artists can create some really cool events. You know, most people are really enamored with the arts. It's exciting, it's interesting, it's intriguing, it's mysterious. So creating something that engages people on that level, that perhaps you have a monthly release of new work and that's an event, and you promote that event, and within that event, you've got little teasers sprinkled in there all month, and you've got, you know, and then you have this beautiful release and you show all your products. There's really great ways to tap into the curiosity of the arts and your craft that are going to get that engagement, and it's a great event, but then you can promote that event. I think there's just a lot of really fun ways to step it up without beyond the organic post. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, people love art. People really do.
Do we have any questions from our audience? Oh, Arisha? We have a question. All right. So we have a question. How effective is tagging on Instagram and Facebook?
I think it's more important on Instagram than it is on Facebook. So it is on Facebook. I feel like they dip their toes in it and they do it, but I feel like the search is much more robust on Instagram for tagging.
Mm-hmm. We have another question. Virginia wrote, I have a brick and mortar puppet theater, which I am moving into animation. Any suggestions?
That's the coolest thing ever. I would love clarity on the question. Suggestions for what? For moving the content from brick and mortar to animations, or moving into a new business called animations around storytelling using, like, what's
your product? Yeah.
What are you doing?
All right, we'll wait for Virginia's answer. Oh, here we go. I'm looking into developing PBS type content.
I mean, I would suggest starting with some shorts. I'm from Portland. My husband worked at Leica Animation Studios for 12 years. We have a lot of animating friends. They start with shorts, and those shorts gain traction, and then you can go to a YouTube channel and you sort of grow from there. But it really is that starting small and getting attention, getting some the chef, which is an animation guy, you get some local influencers and then you grow with the influencers. I think that's a really fun, great way to kind of start spreading the news about your animation studio.
Yeah, also I definitely agree with that. Also try out like other platforms like Vimeo as well. You know, you can put together little shorts. I know Vimeo will allow you to create your own channel as well. And also thinking about, I know a lot of times I tell filmmakers is, you know, we have to kind of start doing what the other studios are doing. You know, like a lot of the film studios, they make their money not really with the film, they make it on the ancillary products. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, they can probably do the same thing with their puppets. You know what I'm saying? Create merchandise, you know, as well around that, to use the animation, you know, short film or series as just a tool to promote, you know, the ancillary products that they can actually sell. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, we're trying to make some money. you know, I love art and everything, but at the end of the day, you know, we got to make some money to do this type of art as well. And so I think, you know, really finding a way to monetize and really create some type of ancillary product to go along with it would really go a long way.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And I think you can then start to put those products onto easy things like Society6 or, you know, there's a million Etsy, put them everywhere, but then create content around those as well. Create content around the content that sells the products itself. So the tools are just completely democratized right now. And it's overwhelming. There's so many tools. And I think that's getting sort of choiceful is probably the most important way to do it. The other piece of advice I would have is whatever you're doing, find a way to search for other people doing it and look at and see how they did it. And then steal the process from them. You don't have to steal the creative because that's not going to work, but steal the process. Like just do what they do. They're not, you know, you really find with marketing, there's a lot of tried and true processes that just work. Everything Chris is doing is super smart and is being done by other people. Chris just seems to be doing it really, really well. But watch what Chris is doing. I think like the way you are going to market and moving that content, which is important content, is very replicatable for a puppet theater. It's just got a different orientation around it.
Great. We have another question. Any suggestions for how fine art painters can set themselves apart?
I can tackle this one a little bit. It's challenging right now. I'm a painter and I have, we've got a couple clients that are fine artist painters. Like I said, one thing that is being done right now is the rolling out of pieces, trying to kind of get some collaboration online and muster some intrigue there. Showing your skill is a really lovely way, kind of sharing that with people, not in a way that demystifies it, but a way that just creates intrigue. It's you projecting yourself in an authentic way across your social media, with the blog. We talked about the newsletter. really just, you don't have that opportunity that you had before in a gallery setting to chat with people. So it's projecting that in a new way to people. Also, there's a lot of really great ways to offer different products. You can take your original, create some prints. There's some local galleries and shops where you could sell some cards or some, a variety of merchandise using your original to just, it may not be your prime end goal, but it's going to elevate you as an artist and get your name out there.
That's great advice.
We have another question from the Red Bud Writing Project. They're a creative writing organization in the Triangle. They teach 6-week classes on Zoom in fiction and memoir writing. And they would like to know if the panelists have any advice on how to grow our audience. They're using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, seem to have stagnated in the growth. They find that returning students love them and continue to sign up, but they don't know how to reach that new audience.
Chris, you seem like this would be a great one for you.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm just reading the question over.
Like how he just handed that off to you?
Hold on one second. Let me see. Okay. I would say just, connect with other, writing organizations and other groups. This type of project that you're doing, you're not trying to connect with people who aren't writers. You know what I'm saying? So, I would really, try to connect with as many groups as possible. And again, in the virtual landscape, before COVID, you were kind of just limited to your area, of doing a group thing like this. Now you can just reach all across the country, all across the world, and just find other people who are within creative writing that want to probably get involved with what you're doing. So, it's a lot of times what I do is just Google search. That's what I started off with, Google searching and reaching out. And you'll be surprised, the people that want to collaborate with you and really share their audience and vice versa. I know what we did with Black Docs when we started doing our virtual screening series, the Maisels Documentary Center reached out to us. And now we're working on a program. We're actually doing a short experimental documentary program, hopefully in November. So we're collaborating with them. So you'll be surprised who out there that really are having the same problems you're having. It's just all about reaching out and just figuring out how you guys can kind of work together, share audiences and grow audiences together. So that's what I would do. I would really do a hard search, through certain Facebook groups, and also just Google search different creative writing groups as well to see if they want to get involved, especially if you're doing it on Zoom, just finding those folks who have that same interest and passion. I know I do when people reach out to me about, film marketing or filmmaking, a Zoom discussion, especially if it's for free, I'm there. I'm gonna make the time, because that's my interest. So finding people that have that same interest, is really, I think, is the key to it. And it's, I think it's just more than just posting it on Facebook. If you're going to use Facebook and stuff like that, find those targeted groups within Facebook to really reach out to.
I think one of the big things in what I read in that question that I may be misinterpreting, so I apologize if so, but what we talked about earlier, which is just because you're in the Triangle, man, I feel like the audience for wanting to write a memoir is probably global. And I would maybe target some cities and get very real with who if you can put together an audience profile by who's taking your classes now and replicate that across different cities and maybe I might even start in sort of master of the universe cities where people are self-important and think they should be writing a memoir. But go to New York, go to San Francisco and try to blanket those cities with your social media, with whatever message you're putting out. And then the other thing I would do is I would consider using your current students maybe create an affiliate program where you could revenue share with them as they bring people in, because they can tap into their networks and bring people in as well, and maybe even share some of their content across your channels and their channels. and they may really want to help you, because that's one of those categories where I feel like you probably get a bond with your teacher or whoever's leading these things, and you want them to succeed. So I would imagine that your current students might be a really great channel for bringing in more people.
Great. Okay, we have another question. Colson says, I'm a songwriter just beginning to learn about music marketing. How should I protect my content while projecting my songs on social media?
I promise I'm not going to hog all the questions, but my daughter is a songwriter and performer, and she's going to Berkeley. She just started her senior year. And I think what I would recommend there, she's having to deal with all of this, is to just, as long as you're copywriting your material, you are protected. What I would do is remove the profit motive from it and just try to get your music out there for now. And consider expanding it to videos, and even super simple videos that you create yourself. Again, being yourself is the most important thing, I think, in that kind of field. And if what you're doing is maybe accessible is the wrong word, but accessible to somebody, it will touch people, and I think move forward that way. So that's what I would do. I'm sure you guys have smarter ways to do that, but that would be I'm dealing with that with a kid, one of my kids.
Oh, no, I totally agree with you, David. Just to piggyback on that, definitely copyright your music and definitely put it out there. I know, for example, I had a young lady hit me up last year. She's a musician in Salisbury, North Carolina. She reached out to me. She said, hey, I want to get more involved in film. I said, I really don't have anything for you right now, but I'll let you know. And I'll also, let some other folks know that I know in film. Because a lot of filmmakers, we're also looking for music. Because we can't afford, to have, all these big artists, their music in our movies and stuff. So, we're always looking for great local talent, for whether it's a documentary or a narrative or short or whatever. And so for the teaser trailer for Wilmington on Fire 2 that I was going to put out during the crowdfunding campaign, the song that I had, I couldn't use it. I was trying to use Nina Simone's Strange Fruit to go over the trailer. It just cost too much. And so I reached out to that young lady because I just liked her style of voice. And I listened to some of her music. I said, you know what, let me see if she could actually create something, for me. And so I had my composer do a whole new record, the actual composition. And I talked to her about it. I said, I need something that's similar to Nina Simone's Strange Fruit. And she said, give me 5 days. And she sent it back, and it was great. And so we're actually going to use her voice and some or more of her original songs throughout Wilmington on Fire 2. And so again, she was always putting her stuff out, and she just hit me up, said, hey, Chris, if you're ever looking for some music, here's my SoundCloud, here's my YouTube channel with my stuff. And so it happened a year later, but I had her on my mind and on my Rolodex. And so when the opportunity happened, she was ready. And so now she's gonna be in the film.
That's incredible.
That's great. Yeah. All right. So we have 2 more questions. What exercises would you recommend to define your audience online?
I'm a big analytics nerd and insights. I look at that, and then if that's not your bag, I look at who's following you, what are they following? You really just get so much from just a little online sleuth work. You just kind of take everything down, see where everybody's at. You can break it down if you're not comfortable reading analytics, you feel you're not sure how to bridge, sift through your insights, just going through and looking at everybody, writing it down. Who are you seeing? Where are they spending their time? What are they doing? I think that's just like the simplest first step. Who's coming to your shows? Who's buying your work? I think that's just a very simple way to start. You can get really deep into that, but that to me is the very first step and the most important.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the one thing I might build on that, because I think that's very, very smart, I think is to double down on your values and figure out who you are. And I think that's as important. It's kind of like targeting is everything, but the other everything is knowing who you are and being that. And there are a lot of really simple exercises for defining yourself. And one is just to name a person you admire and list out why you admire them. Name a company you admire, list out why you admire them. Name an artist you admire, list out why you admire them. And it turns out that's you, because you can't recognize it unless it's inside you. So it is a really great shortcut for finding out who you are and what you value, because you're literally just recognizing yourself in them. That's all it is. So I would highly recommend you do that, and maybe even create a little document of who you are. Because then what you are is you're centered around who you're talking to and why you're talking to them. And you can then target people like you. So.
Great advice. Hey, last question. What are some strategies you suggest for targeting email lists? How do you get those emails to people to open them?
It's sometimes it's a tricky thing as well. It just, kind of be short and sweet to the point, and something and say something you have to. How I do my thing is, with all my marketing stuff, is I put myself in the shoes of a consumer, because we all get bombarded with emails, posts as well. And so that's how I think about it. Like, what will get me to open up something? What would get me to click on it, to open it up? And so a lot of times I have to catch myself sometimes, like, man, I wouldn't open this up. Someone emailed me that based off the subject. So you have to kind of play around with it and test it out sometimes, sending certain things out, see what works, see what's not working. The analytics for MailChimp and other, email platforms are pretty cool, where you can go in there and see the click rates for certain things. A lot of times it's really just getting in there and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and really putting yourself in that shoe of the consumer and say, what would make me want to open up this email, or what would make me want to click on this post?
I wrote a book a few years ago about our approach and the way we try to use conscious capitalism to create shared value. But one of the principles in it was what I call the golden rule of marketing, which is market unto people the way you want to be marketed to. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, you see so many things coming at you that just are not considering the end user as a human. And so I think, again, being authentically you is going to get people to open up your email. It means, like, really sweating out the subject line to make it funny and you, or interesting or provocative, whatever that is, and then don't waste their time, don't waste their time. Get to it and be fun and be interesting. And honestly, just be you. Just be you. That's all you need to worry about. And you will get the interest that you need to get, as long as you're targeting the right people, to Alexis's point.
All right, Alexis, do you have anything?
No, I mean, that's a lot of it. To me, is just what they said. It is also that trial and error. You just kind of, you do what you think, you put out there what you think you want to receive, and you see what hits with people. It's a lot of just seeing how it goes.
To that point,
being in tune with it.
an editor who, when you would pitch him a story idea, he kept saying, "So what?" And you had to keep, like, digging down until it finally, you get there. But I think with things like email too, if you read the subject line, you say, "So what?" Like, why would I open that? Why would I care? And you keep, drilling that down. I think it makes a difference with content.
Especially if you didn't opt into it. Whenever I unsubscribe, you go to the little thing, it says, "Why are you unsubscribing?" And it's like, because you didn't fucking ask me to be a part of this thing. Why can't you put that as a field that I can answer? I did not opt into this. Sorry, I used the F word.
All right, everyone. Well, we're just about at time. I want to be mindful of everyone's day. Thank you so much. Cynthia, do you want to jump on and...
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to come on and say a few last minute words. First of all, I want to thank you so much, Alexis, Chris, David. I don't know if you guys have been talking, so you maybe haven't had a chance to read the comments, but people have really responded really strongly to this. And I've actually gotten a bunch of personal, like, directed just at me. People really appreciate your words.
I took so many notes. I wrote so many things down. The three of you are all eminently quotable, by the way. So thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who came out today. Definitely follow Triangle Artworks on all your social medias so you hear about more things like this. And if you have any ideas as an artist or an arts organization for programs you'd like to see us do for you, please reach out to us. We would love to hear it. We want to support our local arts community, and we do it with help from our local arts community. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.